Hi, this is Babak. In this video I'm going to solve the following problem for you. This is a problem in linear algebra on the topic of dot product of vectors in tree space. Let me read the problem for you first. Let u and v be vectors such that u plus 3v is orthogonal to 7u minus 5v and u minus 4v is orthogonal to 7u minus 2v. Determine the angle between the vectors u and v. That would be a good idea if you pause the video at this point and try to solve the problem yourself first. If you do it correctly, the answer that you will get at the end is 60 degrees. Okay, now let me start solving the problem for you first. So let's just quick review. So if I have two vectors a and b, the dot product of a and b is defined in this way in tree space, yes? The norm of the first vector multiplied by the norm of the second vector multiplied by the cosine of the angle between these two vectors. And of course, if I have the same two vectors dot product, it becomes the norm of the first one times the norm of the second one. Both of them are the same. It becomes squared, and the angle between a vector with itself is equal to 0, and cosine of 0 is 1, so that you get this one. And then hopefully you know that this property, we also have this property that a dot b is equal to b dot a. We also know that we have distribution law. So if I have a dot b plus c, I can simply, or minus c, doesn't matter, I can just distribute a dot inside the pair brackets, writing this something like that. Okay, and then for simplicity of writing, whenever I need to write the norm of the vector u, I just simply write letter u without any simple arrow on top, and if I want to denote the length of vector v, I do similarly and I write it v. And of course, whenever I mean the vector quantity, I definitely put that little arrow on top. Okay, so you know that if two vectors are going to be orthogonal, if the dot product is going to be 0, either the first vector should be 0 or the second vector or the cosine of the angle between those two vectors. So it means that if the cosine of the angle is 0, the angle is 90 degrees, meaning that these two vectors are orthogonal. So here, these vectors u and v, none of them can be the 0 vector, because assume that, for example, u is the 0 vector, then this means that 3v is orthogonal to minus 5v, which is not true, yes, because these two vectors are parallel. The same story here. So u cannot be the 0 vector, and the same story, v cannot be the 0 vector. Yes, so I am on the safe side here if I want to divide or multiply both sides by u and v, because now I know that these are not 0 vectors. Okay, now let us start solving the problem. So here, according to the problem, u plus 3v is orthogonal to the vector 7u minus 5v. So what does it mean? It means that the dot product of these two vectors is the 0 vector. Is the 0 number. The dot product is a number at the end. Yes? Now I use distribution, so I multiply u by 7u, it becomes 7u dot u, but u dot u is the norm of u squared, and I assume that I write it with just simply u, so this becomes 7u squared. Okay, let us just do it quickly. So then it becomes 7u squared, and then I multiply u here, it becomes minus 5u dot v, and then this becomes positive 21u dot v. But if I subtract them, it becomes 16u dot v, positive 16u dot v, and the next one becomes negative 15v squared is equal to 0. So let us keep it in a box for future reference, yes? And let us give it a name number 1. Okay, I will do the same thing for the other piece of information. I know that the vector u minus 4v is perpendicular to vector 7u minus 2v. They are orthogonal, so this means the same story. the dot product of these two vectors is the 0 number. And then I will do the same thing. So u times u dot 7u again for the same reason, it becomes this. And then I will have u dot this minus 2u dot v. And then here I will have minus 28u dot v. So in total I will have minus 30u dot v. And then I will have positive 8v squared equals to 0. So let me also put it in a box and call it number 2. Okay, so my goal is to find the angle between these two vectors. So it means that I need to know something about the relation between the dot product of these two vectors and the corresponding norms of vectors. Yes, because the cosine of that angle is u dot v divided by the norm of u times norm of v. So I need to have this somehow clear for me. I need to know this fraction. Okay, so if you think in that way, you probably see that 7u squared is in common. So if I subtract these two, at least I will get rid of this extra piece of information here. So what can I do? I would write 1 minus 2. So 1 minus 2 will give this to me. So I will multiply this by a minus sign. It becomes like this. And then this one and that one are gone. These two becomes 46. And then these becomes minus 23. Yes? So it becomes 46 u dot v minus 23 v squared is equal to 0. Okay, let me find u dot v from this relation. So I move 23 to the right hand side. So let me just do it in one go. Yes, I move this to the other side, it becomes 23v squared. Then I will divide by 46, and this one and that one are simplified, so I get v squared divided by 2. Yes, so I get 1 over 2v squared. This is what I get in this calculation. Okay, that's good. But it's not enough, yes, because as I told you, we are supposed to have u dot v divided by uv. Here, if I divide by v squared, then I will have divided by v squared, but I want to have u times v. So, for example, I can take this one and put it back into this relation. Then I will find a relation between u and v, okay? So, I would give this one a name, number 3, and then what I do, I will compare number 1 and number 3 to see what can I conclude. The goal is to find the relation between u and v, of course. So 7u squared plus 16 multiplied by, instead of u dot v, I use relation number 3 and put 1/2 v squared, and then I will have minus 15 v squared is equal to 0. But I can simplify that, so it becomes 7u squared plus 8v squared minus 15v squared is equal to 0. So this implies that 7u squared, and this becomes 8 minus 15 is minus 7v squared. I move minus 7v squared to the right, it becomes positive 7v squared. So it means that u squared is equal to v squared. And I take the square root sign, but I don't need to put plus and minus because u and v refer to the length of a vector and cannot be negative. So for that reason, this is only acceptable answer. So then I am done, yes? Because what I can do, I can write for the cosine of the vectors. So I know that u dot v is equal to the norm of u, norm of v, the cosine of the angle between them. So let us consider that angle is theta. So here, for this one, I use number 3. And here I know that u is equal to v according to this number 4, yes? And then I am done. So this becomes 1 over 2 v squared, and then this becomes v dot v, because u and v are the same, so I replaced u with v, and then v dot v is v squared cosine times cosine theta. And for this reason that I told you in the beginning, neither of these vectors can be 0, so I can safely divide by v squared, and then I will get 1 over 2 is equal to cosine theta. But you know that the angle between two vectors by definition is an angle in the first or at most in the second quadrant. It lies somewhere between 0 degrees and 180 degrees, and on the other hand the cosine is supposed to be 1/2. So there is one single answer S which is acceptable, and that is exactly 60 degrees. I hope that this video was useful for you. Below this video you will find the link to the PDF file of these solutions. Thank you. Until the next video, be safe and goodbye.